Okay, so I've been asked a handful of times how I make Pokeballs, and I figure why not just do a start to finish tutorial. Um, Personally, I don't do any video editing, so this is going to be in one take. Otherwise, it's going to be awful, or it might be both. Who knows? So, starting out, this would be a Pokeball. We essentially are making terrariums for our figures. And this is the first one I have ever made, so it definitely has some flaws, some things going on with it. One of those is I did not use any blue on the water surfaces. I used real moss in there, and it has long since died. This thing is over 7 years old. And the button, while I don't think that's entirely a problem, I did not cut very cleanly. This is actually made out of those sheets of foam you get at like craft stores. The outside, so our rim right here, is electrical tape. And the ball itself, the dome, is a, how do you call that? It's like a Christmas ornament, but they come in two pieces. So I will start off with things that you need to actually do this craft. Starting with the dome itself. So this is how these Christmas ornaments come. They are two-part. There's a little lip here that kind of gives you the little clamp, so that way it sticks together. They also have these dongles. Those do not stick around for this Pokeball. The normal way I go about it, I'm sorry, these are old too, is I'll clip those off, just kind of crimp it first and then clip. Otherwise, if you go too fast, too hard, it will crack the acrylic. If that's not available, I usually use clippers, like nail clippers, really kind of beefy ones that I picked up at a Walgreens one time. They are fantastic in a pinch, and pinch is what they do. Let's see. After I clip off the dongle, I separate versus what's my top, what's my bottom. I'll usually pick the one that is the clearest and with the least marring. This one still has a bit. It's just about the way they're stacked inside the box. They go like this, so they kind of get like a weird edge here. But you try to find the one that's the cleanest. And then the one with all the marring, the one that you think is a bit dingy, you pick that one for the bottom and spray paint the inside of it so that you have a nice glossy outside, matte interior, and those are your tops and bottoms. With my current setup, I 3D print my rings and my buttons. The buttons, I do not have a two-part or a multicolor printer, so I tend to paint the button tops. Maybe I'll move out of that and get myself a better printer. Maybe I won't. There we go. After we get our ball set up, the next thing is our base. So I've been getting chipboard, and that's fantastic. It's a medium weight chipboard. I am not entirely sure what the exact weight is, but they are fantastic. They come in sheets like this, but I know not everybody is out looking to get chipboard, and it can get pretty expensive. Sometimes you're only getting like 10 per pack. I have been getting them from a bookstore, so whenever they get a shipment of books, they let me have their chipboard that goes between their books so their books don't get damaged. Another fantastic place for chipboard. So this is from a Capri Sun pack. Cereal boxes, noodle pasta boxes, and Capri Sun. They are perfectly sized, perfect thickness. And honestly, once you have it all flattened out, you just put your top lid or your bottom lid on there. You do your trace and you cut it out, and it does take some finagling. Sometimes you're a little close, sometimes you have to do like some shaving down, and it just sits right in there. I have upgraded to a circle cutter, but even that took a little fighting because I had to do little adjustments to get it exactly right. So we have our base. Next, to make our Pokeball look more livable, we get things to put into it. So this is like a little grass mat. They are faux grass, which is fantastic. I don't have to worry about, over time, like with my original ball, it changing colors, or sometimes if they're left in the sun, they breathe. And if you're using moss, even though it may be preserved and it'll stay the color you want it to, it might breathe out some moisture and cause fogging inside of your ball. So I do keep moss just as an option by request, but I love using these little faux grass mats. They are perfect for it. They have this flat felt bottom where you can put your cardboard base down, trace it out, and get exactly what you're looking for. Okay, let's move on. So I have one that's already cut out, and this one's crescent shaped so that we can get like a bit of a water feature. So once I have this glued down, I can paint right here with a blue, and I don't want to stick with just a single color blue. I would like to use a darker to where I would say that the water is deeper, but I'll just kind of paint over all of that and then set up the lighter color towards the shore. Let's go ahead and try to do that real quick. We'll glue down our mat. I've got a glob. Line that up just right. Give it a gentle press. Okay. Now that that's on there, we'll go ahead and grab one of our blue colors. Let's see. I'll grab this kind of dark gray. And all of my brushes are super gnarly because I am terrible about cleaning them. Take care of your stuff. If it's not perfect, it's still workable. The thing is, once we have this color down, it will dry a little bit, but anything that's kind of a little wonky will be mostly covered up by the fact that we're putting glue over it. One of the things that I have learned over the years of doing these is that you want to pay attention to the kind of glue that you're picking. There are some that kind of, when they dry, they have like a matte color to it, or they fog up really bad. A crystal clear hot glue is fantastic because then you have all the room to work with. Maybe you're going to tone it with some markers, or you're going to add some color to the underside like we are doing here, where we're adding this shade of blue down to the bottom. If you have a clear, it's more likely to show what you want and not what you don't. It'll be a lot easier to understand once I get to that part here in a few minutes. So, and with my gray, I'm going to go in here and just kind of start with a dark spot and then mix it out. Just scrub it along and it'll darken up and desaturate those tones right there. That gives us our little dark drop off in here. So that way we have a deeper bit to our little water feature. Let's put that away. Boop. All right, so once we have our base started, the next thing we want to do is figure out our Pokemon. I'm going to use a Pikachu just because everybody can work with a Pikachu, right? They are so commonly out there and so many people like them. It's just a safe bet. So I am certain I want my Pikachu right here. The best way to go about fixing it to that position is with a push pin. I will go through and in the position that I want it, I will punch this through. It's going to fight me a little bit because there's hot glue in that spot. And pop, right there. And then I'll pull it back out. So that tells me I'm going to be right here. I'll take just a touch of this hot glue right there. And I will push the pin right back through, but from the opposite side. And that's where my Pokemon's going to sit. Next, I will go ahead and push that hole, or punch a hole into this Pikachu by pushing on firmly. And just kind of double checking, do I want it like that, or do I want it to maybe change his position just a little bit? We're going to stand him up just a little taller. And I think I like that. Yeah, that looks good. If for whatever reason I'm not comfortable with the push pin holding it into place, or I have a Pokemon that's got feet that are a little bit more difficult, I will put glue on the feet and then just press it into the grass and hold it tightly. And sometimes that just feels like a hope for the best kind of moment. Sometimes it works really well, but I have developed this little technique just to make sure that my Pokemon stay in position for as long as possible. So, moving on, when we are setting up our Pokeball, our terrarium looks kind of bare right now. Something that really helps is adding some kind of plant feature. I have several options. I've picked up these cute little ball bush things. They're kind of funky. They're a little unnatural when you think about it. They're kind of just a foam squishy ball covered in I guess grass and like fake snow. Some of them have like red or just more green, and that's supposed to be different seasons, I guess. There are other options where you can get things like these where you have several different plants. Sorry for the loud noise. And the fun thing about these plants is they are meant for like doing train dioramas. So you'll get really detailed, fun, just plant styles where you can fill up just the entire background with these really amazing plants. And they're so detailed. Definitely, if you are looking for options and you're not totally satisfied with looking up miniatures, look up just train dioramas and see what kind of decorations you can find for that. At the very, very beginning, I used to buy fake plants and I would just tear them apart and I would utilize that. So if maybe one option's not going to work for you, there are several things that you can do to kind of build up that background and make your terrarium look a little more natural, like a livable space that your Pokemon would have been found in out in the wild. Another option I absolutely love, finding flowers to build up that natural space. It can get a little difficult, but one thing I have found that has made it so much easier, instead of going online and looking up just, different kinds of miniature flowers or fake flowers or even pressed flowers, I have started going to craft stores and buying just these branches of, little tiny flowers meant for making faux bouquets and whatnot. And they just kind of pop right off. Even still, the little flowers themselves pop right off. So if I don't really like how spindly and stemmy this is, I can pop the flower off and add it to any of the plant features that I have chosen for my little terrarium. Let's start by popping a couple of these off. We'll put those right there. And we'll go ahead and plan out a couple of spots. Let's say I want right there, one right here, and maybe another right here. So I kind of like that because it's going to give us a full background, make it a lot more detailed. And then I'll probably trim this little nub off. Let's see if you could see that. They have this nub where it was linked onto the stem. I'll trim that down and maybe put some flowers into the grass to kind of liven it up. So let's go ahead and grab my scissors. Actually, you know what? I could work with the little clippers I have. We'll just clip that down. There's one. There's two. And three. Let's do one more. These, since I sourced them from that little tree, also have these weird nubs on the end of them. That's not really going to work for me, so I will go ahead and clip those off as well. And let's do that last one. I went looking for my scissors and they're right there. Oh, goodness. So we'll put those off to the side. Okay, so I'm going to give it another good glance. We're going to have one here, and one in the center, and two of our flowers off to the side. We're going to carefully add some hot glue. And when it comes to these faux plants, they tend to be made out of a very soft plastic. So you want to be careful about how long you have your heat on them. Otherwise, they will turn into the hot glue themselves, and it can get quite messy. Your leaves will start to fall in different directions, and it'll just get all melty and pretty gnarly. At the same time, though, you can use that to your advantage. While it's still really hot, you can probably pose out some of these leaves to look just a bit more spread out, more luscious. Go ahead and go on to the next one. Oop. Give that a little twist. Press it in there. And a firm press is all you need. Maybe about 3-second hold. And the hot glue should set enough to let it go and see how it looks. And so far, we are looking really good. Go ahead and do this last one to fill out that empty space in the back. Give it a good press. Count 1, 2, 3, and then we'll let it go. Kind of readjust it while it's still warm. And there we go. Here's a look from the back. Because this is going to be a clear ball, you're going to be able to see it from all angles as long as you don't have it just completely set back. So it's nice to know that the back actually looks pretty decent. When it comes to these flowers, I do not suggest holding on to them when you're gluing them. Definitely put down a little blob. Make sure it's kind of a really small blob. And just tap it right on top. One of the things that I've discovered is you will get these spindly, spiderwebby strings. The longer you mess with it, the worse it gets. So as soon as you set it down, you leave it alone and you wait until the very end once you're all set up and you have it exactly the way you want it. And you can go in there and just pick each one of those off and they will just pop off. Whereas otherwise it'll just keep producing more and more strings. Let's go ahead and push you in right there. Oh, and see, that's going to give me more strings. Come on the other side and do one right here. And I'm totally fine with tapping and getting glue right here, because that is exactly how we're going to make that water when we get to that, is we are covering this whole portion in more glue. So if you have some bits that are just kind of getting super stringy, bring them in towards whatever water feature you have, and they will end up melting away in the water when you build that up. Like that. Gonna go ahead and tap that on there carefully. There we go. So we have our background set up. We have some cute little flowers. Next, for the water, you will more than likely need multiple sticks, but that is absolutely fine. There is several different ways to go about it. Since we have quite a bit of space, I'm going to try to make a shoreline. So the first thing I will do is, if I want to make sure I don't burn myself, you can actually hold onto the pin and angle it in any which way is comfortable for you. And we just go across this edge right here, lay down a line of glue. Now it's ready. And because we are putting out as much as the stick will push, it will end up being quite warm because there's going to stay a bunch of glue on top of itself. That way we have this little shoreline, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some play sand or some craft sand and just sprinkle it on there, and the hot glue will just hold onto that for me. And then grab some. I'll just sprinkle it right on there. And I'll push it in if I see any spots that are missing it. I want to do that quick because my sand is actually pretty cold. And sometimes that's not pleasant because it will cool off the hot glue pretty fast. But for now, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and tap off the excess into my sand. There we go. So just doing that has given me a cute little shoreline where I've got this lovely little bit of sand. Kind of gives a more natural break from the grass to the water. At this point, I can now come in with more glue, and there's going to be so very much glue. So very, very much glue. Oh yeah. I showed 2 sticks. I've gone through one almost immediately. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to use the tip, since that's the heating element, and I'm going to push it around and make sure there's no open spots. And I'll just fill that up with all the glue I can. Keep your glue gun close while you let the whole system kind of catch up to itself. The stick itself is going to feed in and might not be ready to melt all the way, but because of all the pressure I've put onto it, it will continue to feed. So to catch all that excess, we'll leave it right there. And then I will get the next stick loaded. There are a couple of different ways to do the water feature. Oh, are we not close enough? Ah, that's perfect. I'll just keep pushing it out then. There's a couple of different ways to do the water feature. You can coat the entire thing in a layer of glue, and then once it's dried just a little bit, take a stick or a toothpick or something and swirl it a little, and that'll make it look kind of choppy, like you're having a windy day on a lake. Or one of my favorite ways is, say we're at a beach. Once we do this first layer, we can come through and just glob it back in there and just go ham. But we're going to be a bit of a distance away from the original shoreline. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause kind of a layer right there. And with it being warm, it kind of settles down and you get a wave effect, which is one of my favorite details. I can do a wave, and then after everything's dry and set up, I can tap that edge of the wave with some white acrylic paint, just little speckles of it, kind of little blotches, and it will make it look like a crashing wave. It is very, very lovely. Oh, look at that. We got a little gap right there. We're going to go fill. And if you get gaps, push into the glue with the tip of your glue gun. That way it heats up the glue around it, and then pump out a little bit and then kind of wiggle it around until you're reset and it just kind of melds back in. We'll give that a second to set up its next layer. And I'll sweep up this mess. I tend to have a lot of little bits and little gunky parts that I've got to clean up while I'm making my crafts. And one of the things I like about this is the bottom is going to be weighted with some of that play sand. And to get rid of these little bits, sometimes I'll just toss that in with the sand. It's not meant to be seen, and it just kind of takes care of that mess. So that's kind of nice. All right, that seems like it's been long enough. We'll do our next layer, and you can kind of see right there where we're getting that separation, where we're getting a whole new line, a new wave. Let's pump some out like this to start up our next wave, and then we will rub and do a circle motion to kind of pull it back in. There we go. And the closer you get to the edge of the platform, the less glue you're gonna need. So it looks like we're only going to go through 3 sticks of glue for this water feature, but I only had 2 prepped, so let's go ahead and get another one. Go. Just barely ready. Seems we might have been a little too early. This whole portion has melted back in. And you know what? That's totally fine. If it wants to, it can. Sometimes just letting it do whatever it wants helps make for a more natural appearance. Do this last bit. There we go. Make sure all of that gets warm, so that way once it's done, it settles in just right. Okay, so you'll see I have kind of this chunk coming off here, and that's one of those things. We'll end up fixing that when we go ahead and do our assembly. It's not really going to hurt anything as long as it's not entirely too big. If we have a really big chunk, you'll want to try to wait until it's cool and pop that piece off, because it may end up hindering you being able to seat your base into the bottom of the ball. We'll go ahead and put that right there, and we'll pull out our ring. So 3D printed rings are fantastic. I love that I'm able to do that because it gives me nice presentation, but it is not a requirement. When I started making these, I would go to the store and buy canning lids, and they come with a little centerpiece, but the ring was my main use, and I would put them right on top, and they work fantastic. If you want a different appearance, you can go ahead and spray paint it, kind of set it up however you'd like. You could use a full can or a full like jelly jar lid or anything, something, as long as it's elevated to maybe about, I'd say that's about 3/4 of an inch, but as long as it's elevated enough to hold your ball off of the table, it will be able to hold it steady. When I first started making these, I did not put anything into the bottom of them. That caused quite a bit of issues when I was first dealing with them, because the amount of decorations I would put on them when it's just chipboard tends to make it warp. As you can see, that is not flat. So they used to have a problem with separating, and that is just heartbreaking when you have it all finished up and sealed and then you see it just pop apart. That's not fun. So one of the other techniques I have started doing is I'll take my base, I will make sure that it all fits inside of the ball. So it looks like we're coming up to this very flush edge right there. And then I will fill the actual bottom of the ball with play sand. And I'll fill it up till just about where the base itself landed. That way it will sit right on top. It'll have that solid platform. And then in the end, it will give you a nice solid, I guess really weighted feel. There we go. So I have it about that much. And that's going to give me a little bit of wiggle room to press this in there and make sure I am exactly where I want. Now, this little nub where we clipped the hanging dongle from is actually going to be the front of the ball. You always want that to be the front of the ball because what you're going to end up doing is covering this portion with your button. It stands out kind of unsightly when you have the tape over it. So here I am going to lay a line of hot glue just at the top of my sand and just layer that line all the way around. I don't want to go too fast as to miss any portion, but I also don't want to go too slow because it will begin to dry. That sand ends up being quite small, and if you end up tilting any bit, the sand will cover up that glue and pretty much take up all the adhesion. So now that we've got that little layer going on, I will go ahead and get this in here and press it down into that line of glue. I want to make sure every edge presses down into that glue as deep as the sand will allow. And what that does is it's going to use the glue as a seal. Nice deep press all the way around. And I'll do that till the sand doesn't let me anymore. There we go. And to make sure I have it all sealed up with my glue, I'll turn it upside down, give it a shake. If I get any sand in my hands, I know there's a hole, and I'll just kind of figure out where that hole is and I'll tap it with some glue. Make sure that hole seals up. If for whatever reason it's a very large hole, there's a chance that our base was not cut circular enough for it to sit into the bottom of the ball. Now that we have it all seated in there, we kind of see where the edges were a little wonky, and we can go in there and just do our little touch up, kind of pump some glue on there and mix it around with the heated end. Make sure it gets nice and flat, flush with the rest of the water feature that we've got going on here. If for whatever reason, like I'm doing right now, it's not exactly the prettiest thing, you can go ahead and add another layer of glue on top of it, or you can do that the ripple effect that I was talking about, where it's you take the stick and you just kind of swirl it in there, and that tends to clean up a lot of the mess. Oop, there we go. So now is a good time to start picking out any little spider webby bits of hot glue that got away from you earlier. That way you get a nice clean look. There's a couple of them back here. I can feel them. There we go. So one of the things you may notice is we do end up with this line down here from where the hot glue met with the spray paint. If you do multiple layers of a primer paint, that won't happen. I have a tendency to be very impatient, so I only did one layer and it is quite visible. So what I'm going to end up doing is when I put the band that goes across, I will end up using that as my guideline to say where I want the band. There we go. We'll let that dry a bit. And now we'll elevate that appearance of our water. I have some real gnarly paintbrushes. They have these just crusty ends with their bristles poking every which way, and I'll do a quick dab. And with that, we'll go in and find the edge of our wave and do some taps. And just like that, we'll start to get a crashing wave look. And it looks so nice once you have it all in there and it's just going. Let's get a little bit more on there. Sometimes you get it on there a little thick, sometimes you don't. If you get it on there thicker than you want it to, the good news is it just wipes up. You could tap on it to kind of spread it out. Whatever you think makes it look nice to you, that's exactly what you're going for. If it doesn't look nice to you, experiment. Mess with it. Try all kinds of things. Sometimes you don't even want to use a brush. Maybe you want to stick with tapping on it with your finger. Get those effects just the way you want. We'll go through, do this one. There we go. Nice crashing waves. I'll pull them up a little bit so we get some movement in there. Go on to the next layer. I did 4 layers in this one. Normally I can only fit 3, but I went for much more water. Had a deeper cut in the fake grass that I was using. There we go. Give that a little pull. So far, really nice. I am enjoying this one. Might be a little much on this wave. Let's give it a good tap to lessen that out. Beautiful. A little bit more. There we go. There. Nice little wavy kind of water feature going on right there. Like a Pikachu at the beach. Normally, I would love to add much more details to these, but for the sake of time, this is about as far as I'm going to go with it. At this point, if you feel like your piece is done, it's time to completely seal it up. So you want to make sure you have your dongle clip into the front. You're going to meet it exactly where the last one was. Give your lid a look over. Make sure there's no cracks, no marring. We're not really going to be able to avoid that on mine, but that's fine. And then also, these are prone to having really harsh static. So little bits can get stuck on the inside and it feels really difficult to get them out. You might want to try to sweep them. You'll end up leaving streaks in there. So what you want to do is blow on it. At the very most, you can use like a microfiber cleaning cloth or something to kind of just sweep that out. All right, let's get that lined up. Now, one of the things that you may experience is once you have the bottom filled with sand and it's got all that pressure on it, it might not want to line up all the way. So you kind of get as much in there as you can, and then you work your way around. Like, see, we've got a lot of gap right there. See that? And you just kind of push on it until it gets in there. I have run into issues where it just did not want to go and I had to get a different top, and those are unfortunate times. There's also been a couple of times where I tried too hard and the whole lid broke. It is all a matter of trial and error at that point. Ooh, that didn't sound lovely. There's a bit of hot glue in the way. Okay, so there we go. Got it under the lid, and now I'm going to give it a push. on, come on, come on, come on. Let's do this off screen just a little bit. Gotta get a good grip on it. Oop, it popped back out. It's fighting me. Okay, had a little bit more on there. Oh. Let's see. We'll push like that, and then push to the center. I can hear it not wanting to go. Well, this might be a good example of when I need to double check my rim. So this one right here, this is actually the rim that goes inward. It is best to use these for the bottom, so that way you're not having to worry about if you got glue on the inside lip right here. But mine was just a bit too marred. And if you see right about right there, I got too much on that lip. So we'll just kind of pop some of that off. It's not going to be noticeable. And then I got quite a bit on the lip right here. So I'll drag my fingernail across it and peel that back. See, comes off in little chunks. There we go. And that is exactly the space that was not wanting to work with me. Well, it's gonna work with me now. Or I'll get another lid. The fun thing about these ornaments is they come in packs. So you usually have another one to work with if you run into any trouble with one. There we go. And just drag my fingernail across and around. Get those bits off. Do I think I have enough? I might be close. Let's give it another try. Starting from the back, make sure I have all of my plants in. Get my little dongle clipped area exactly where it needs. Oh, and I guess we want a seat on this side this time. Let's push in. Who knew getting the lid would be more time consuming than making the actual ball? Alright. He's fighting me so hard. Little bit. Come on, you can do it. Almost, almost. Okay. I wonder what I can do to make that go. Oh, there is one other thing. So sometimes when I'm working with them like this, you can do a little clip right there, and that will alleviate a little bit of pressure off of the lip of the ball. But this is very out of the ordinary. Doing so can also leave a lot of room for a crack to shoot up the side of your acrylic. Let's go ahead and get that in there right there. I want you in first, in the back. Then we'll move to the side, and here, and here. Getting there. You could do it. Come on. Well, I guess I'm going to hold it to my chest again. Yay! Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Took a bit of squeezing. Had to hold it to my chest. It finally popped in there. We're nice and flush. Going all the way around. And we've got our little clipped pieces lined up. Woof. That was more fight than anything else so far. Okay. Now, we're going to take our roll of electrical tape, feel around to find where the end is, because that's always fun. There we go. And I start by taking off just a little bit, covering that little spot and making sure if I have any marks that I need to line up with, I'm well covering it. Now, I'll keep my thumb on there and just pull out and turn. That rotation will help make sure that I keep it for the most part straight. If I don't feel like I'm straight, I'll pull it back out. And then just go all the way around. Just like that. Once I get back over here, I want to make sure my ends line up as best as they can. And then I'll use my scissors to go ahead and clip that right off. There we go. Smooth that out. And now you can really see that bump is just unsightly. The good news is we'll cover that up with our little Pokeball button. This right here is my 3D printed one. It's got some marks on it. It's kind of iffy on the painting, so I saved this one for a personal project, and that's what we're using it for. I'll go ahead and load up the back side of that with a little bit of my hot glue. Get the strings off, and then line that right up. Hold it on there for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and there we go. That's about it. Once you have that button on there, your assembly is complete and your Pokeball is all ready. There are tons of options you can do with this. You don't even have to use grass. You don't have to do a water feature, none of that. I actually like to collect these little resin food pieces, and they're so much fun. I'll make like little picnics. I've collected so many things. I can even do like little brick houses, things like that. Just kind of go all out. If you can imagine it, if you can figure out how you'd go about putting it together, like these right here, they're glow-in-the-dark rocks. I'll make glow-in-the-dark pads. All kinds of fun stuff. There's little mushrooms. There's other kinds of flowers. There's snowflakes. There's so many options on how you can make the interior of your terrarium just absolutely suit your Pokemon or whatever you really want to see. So feel free. I'll leave a link of all the products, that kind of the basics that you'll need, and that'll be in the description below. And have fun with it. If you ever make any, feel free to share it. I'll have my Instagram in a link in the description as well. And I would love to see what you guys make. All right, thank you.